Hey, check out the shape on Batman's cape. Here's a look at the brand new McFarlane Toys DC Direct Batman by Todd McFarlane 1/8 scale statue McFarlane Toys digital exclusive. Failing miserably to defeat the Reaper, Batman must consider fighting fire with fire, which unfortunately puts him at deadly odds with Gotham City Police Department. Forced to then work with Joe Chill as a result, the man responsible for killing his parents, Batman must do what he can to put an end to the Reaper's tyranny, even if it goes against his best interests. While unfortunately Batman has to cope with working with his parents' killer, let's grab the tape measure and see how tall the 1/8 scale statue of Batman stands depicted from issue 423. This is also as well a McFarlane Toys digital exclusive, which gifts the Cape Crusader a now blue cape and blue cowl. The statue, though, stands at about 11 inches in height, or it's going to be about 27 centimeters tall. Once again, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the blue cape version of Batman that we could have a look at. Having already looked at the black cape version, we're going to bring in the statue right now. It was a really nice looking statue, and it doesn't really do anything different other than cosmetic changes. If you were, say, a big fan of the black cape version, basically all the same stuff and all the same mold gets carried over now with the newer release, other than the fact that the digital release now again gets the colors swapped out. Instead of having black, it's all a very bright blue instead. There are a few other things other than the cape and cowl's colors that get changed. One thing is that the trading card, while being still the depiction of issue 423, I'm going to bring in the other one so you can see the difference. The colors of the border, though, are very drastically different. The original one only had a black border, while the new digital release copy actually does have a transitioned color. So it starts more of kind of a lighter teal color and progressively works its way to a darker blue as it gets to the top of the border. The back of the card is also slightly different. It does still have the image of Batman at the top, but you'll see instead of actually having the bat symbol, it now has instead McFarlane Toys digital. The borders are also going to be different, as the border that fits around the paragraph was white before. Now obviously it's black, so the cards are a little bit different from one another. The same thing can be said, though, is that I do wish that they actually had little display stands. Ones that we've gotten with, like the McFarlane Toys Movie Maniacs, for example, or some of these signature selections. Some of those display stands, I think, would have been coming really handy when it comes to displaying this with a statue. Other than that, you can just really rest it against the cape. But, I mean, obviously, I think I'm going to see if I can source out a display stand from one of the other releases that we've gotten from McFarlane's team. The other thing that also gets different, not that the original one had it, but there's also a McFarlane Toys digital card. This is an authentication card where you can go onto their website at www.mtdgg to download the McFarlane Toys digital viewer app for your Mac or PC. You scratch the above to reveal your one-time use code. Then you create your account and log in using the redeem code in the left panel of the screen and follow the instructions in the pop-up window, essentially allowing you the access of their digital online artwork. Again, you get this only exclusive here with the McFarlane Toys digital release of this statue, as it wasn't paired along with the original. Something also that does get changed, I'm just going to move the card out of the way here, is that the display stand also gets slightly altered. I'm going to just remove the display stand here. If you had already seen my review of the black cowl version of this statue, then you'll also know as well that this statue has a fine time of standing on its own. You don't really necessarily need to use the display stand. The display stand does bring something a little bit different that the original one didn't. The first one that we looked at only had just a DC logo printed down below here. Now what we get instead, though, is a McFarlane Toys digital font printed along the top. It just gives you a little bit of extra color. Now again, you don't have to necessarily use the display stand. If you were to, say, rock the statue, there's a little bit of a wiggle, but there's more than enough footprint space on the bottom of his cape that the statue really doesn't even need to use the display stand. I'm going to leave it off for right now. Sorry, didn't mean to startle you. I'm going to leave it off for right now. Just going to put it off to the side just because it makes things a little bit easier to actually look at the statue itself. Now again, the molding of the statue, exactly the same. Nothing has been done differently other than just, again, the swapping of the colors. There's something to be said, though, about the blue that I find really just enhances the sculpting. The black looked really good, as we already saw in that review, but there's something to be said for the way that now the blue just really lets a lot of those folds and the way they've sculpted the cape really shine, especially when you see it from the back. What now gets added is all this additional darker blue gets airbrushed across the entire surface of the cape. The original black one only just had the black molding of the plastic, but the blue really just pops, I feel, when it comes to all the additional colors that they managed to add. Some of the things like the seams, for example, are a little bit more obvious when you look at the blue version. But man, the blue version release of this statue looks fantastic. Obviously, the head sculpt is going to be exactly the same. You know, one thing I didn't really talk too much about when we looked at the black version of the statue is the way they sculpted the ears. Very unique to the way McFarlane designed his ears for Batman. Instead of actually just being solid points, they sort of gradually have like a little bit of a slope to it, the way they've sculpted it. Really good looking head sculpt once again for Batman. Nothing really different from the original release, but man, it has a really good looking portrait and a front face. I would love to see them use this same head sculpt for maybe a 7-inch multiverse release instead. Also, one thing that is also carried over is the slightly bulkier bat symbol. It was the one thing I really didn't care for when it came to the original black version. It still continues to be one thing I'm not really a big fan of. It just looks overly puffy and chunky. I wish that this was just a little bit more flatter to his body. His utility belt still is a little harder to see, even in this review, but you can see that they've sculpted that in there as well. And just again, like all the folds and layers of the cape carry over really nicely here in the blue release. You've got the little points there on the tops of his shoulders, which really, again, when you're looking at the way they've sculpted the cape, I think really gets more of a chance to shine here when you get it in blue versus the black. I know normally, does it come in black? Honestly, in a case like this, I think I like the blue just a little bit more. It still has black, granted. The black is really all on the interior of the cape. So while you kind of look into like all the way the cape is kind of folded in on itself, you can see like inside they've actually molded and painted in black. I don't know if they've actually started this in black and they just simply painted it over in blue, or if it was just easier for them to mold the entire statue in blue and then just paint the recessed sections in black instead. But again, like the way it folds over like a drape and curtain, it just looks fantastic on this statue. There are a few little imperfections I noticed here on mine. You can see like there's a little, I don't know if it's glue or it's just left behind some extra paint that maybe just stayed behind. There's also more of a very obvious seam line here where it came out of the molding press. But again, like it's a really nice finished looking statue that really does look good from all the sides. It's one of those statues. I know sometimes when you get a statue, it really does only look good from one angle. This is one of those statues, even though really the original source material kind of had it more angled like this. I think it's a statue that really would look good from all sides. I mean, obviously you're not going to have it displayed from the side or from the back like this. But really, one thing that gets unfortunately overlooked by having the statue facing forward is just, again, all the work and all the time that the talented team behind McFarlane Toys did sculpt into the statue in the first place. And what I did say, though, when it came to the black statue, certainly is one thing I'll say as well for this statue, is when you look at the original source material, what you're only really, again, seeing is from this side. It's essentially a two-dimensional image of Batman. So they had to, again, kind of reimagine what this statue would have looked like in 3 dimensions. I mean, when you look at it from the front, it carries over the same sort of, let me just turn it slightly off to the side. It does certainly look like the card, but it does do things, it brings a lot more molding in it that obviously the two-dimensional image of Batman just couldn't carry on his own. And again, we'll just kind of move this guy over without his display stand. Just going to reach off to the side and again bring back in, whoops, not bang the camera, bring back in the black version, the black cowl version of Batman. So you can see again, same mold, same statue, sure. But there's, something to be said, like, I think I like the statues for 2 different reasons. I like the darker approach with this one because obviously it carries over more the color scheme of what we got with the original trading card. But with the benefit of it being now in blue is where you really get a chance to see how much work and effort they put into sculpting the statue. I think you see a lot more opportunities, and especially with the additional airbrushing of the darker blue, it really does give you a nice contrasting of lighter and darker colors. That maybe wasn't as much the case when we looked at the black cowl version of this statue. I think for that reason, it's definitely worth, if you can, to try to source out both releases of them. I don't know if I will still want to get the black and white release because I think I'm really happy with getting both the black and the blue versions of the suit. But going back to one point I did mention in the black version of Batman, the statue, I would love to see them release this in more just the silhouetted image. I mean, it certainly would involve a whole lot less paint. They'd essentially just have to mold the entire thing in black and just add the accented lines here in blue. I'd love to see them actually carry over like a 100% transfer of where the source material makes itself into a statue. I'd love to see them kind of carry over the same sort of color motif. Nice looking statues, though. This is one of those Batman figures I'm really glad, again, like the statue was released in PVC plastic. I did say that in the other earlier review of the Batman Black statue. Keeping the cost down low is obviously one of the big benefits of releasing this in PVC plastic, but also as well, like if this was ever to be released in resin sure would have looked good, but resin also would have been a much more expensive statue. And with all the things that are also going on with this statue, there's so much busyness when it comes to his cape. Any one of those things could be potentially broken if it was released in resin instead. So if you find yourself more interested in getting the McFarlane Toys digital exclusive of the 1/8 scale statue of Batman from issue 423 and think he's going to be harder to come by, no, he's actually not. In fact, some of the sites like GameStop, I'm just throwing GameStop out because it was one of the sites that popped up immediately when I looked up the blue cal version. They've actually got the pre-order listed right now for $99.99. In comparison to the original black costume statue of the same size and same scale, the other one was going for $79.99, so it's about a difference of $20. The difference of the $20 does give you a slightly different display stand, and it also gives you a very differently decoed Batman. Between the two, I'm still torn as to which one I actually like more. I like the blacker approach with the black costume Batman, but again, like the blue, man, that really shows so nicely, especially with all the additional airbrushing. I have to wonder if they could have added airbrushing to the other black suit, but keeping it stark black probably was the better approach. Between the two statues, which one would you say is the better one? This one that we looked at in this review, or the original one that had the gray outfit with the black cape and cowl? Let me know which one you actually prefer down below in the comments section. Once again, a big thank you to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the 1/8 scale Batman McFarlane statue of Batman from issue 423. If you guys did enjoy this video, I want to hit it with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and would like to see more, if you haven't already done so, I mean, it makes no sense if you already have, but if you haven't, let's say this is the video that you're stumbling onto this channel for, you're liking hopefully what you're seeing, and you'd like to see more, hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. We may be wrapping up things right now, at least for Batman statues, but that's not to say that we won't be looking at some more DC Multiverse reviews, some of the stuff that I like collecting the most from McFarlane's team. So definitely more of those videos will be coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.